One of our community council members, Patrick Horgan, made the connection to have this presentation, so he's going to provide the necessary information to present our guest speaker.
Good evening, I'm Patrick, and it's nice to see that we have a lot of people attending the meeting, and it's especially good that we have some children attending the meeting with their parents. There's been a lot of things going on with bullying. It's risen to the surface over the years. It wasn't considered much of a problem, and now we're finding out that it's a big problem. We have kids that are committing suicide. We have kids that are afraid to go to school because they're having their lives threatened. So we as a council thought it was a good thing that maybe we brought up bullying to the public and explained it to you and give you an opportunity to ask questions from a district attorney. Our speaker tonight has worked in the gang units, the courts, East County offices. She's currently assigned to the juvenile division and has prosecuted hundreds of cases with juveniles. She works closely with the probation department, the school resource officers, and the school officials on violence and on bullying. A little known fact about her was that she actually started out as an intern in Washington, D.C., but decided to prosecute law instead. So please welcome Deputy District Attorney Elizabeth Raymond.
Okay. I'm also used to talking in front of juries and in court, so can everybody hear me? Yes. Okay. If anybody has a problem hearing me, just raise your hand in the back and I'll either speak louder or I'll slow down or I'll grab the mic, but don't feel shy to just wave your hand if for some reason I'm going too fast. So, like he said, my name is Elizabeth Renner. I am a deputy district attorney, and for some younger people, that means I prosecute crimes. I am currently in the juvenile division of the San Diego Superior Court, and that's if you're committing a delinquency crime under the age of 18, you come through our office. And that applies to the entire county. We handle the entire county from North County to all the way to Chula Vista, San Ysidro. That all comes through our office, and I am one of the prosecutors in that office. First of all, aside from being a bullying presentation, you have a fantastic civics lesson here today. Watching your community council in action, you've seen them involve local law enforcement, you have seen them involve people running for office, and this is a fantastic lesson for you as kids to kind of watch how your government works. And so I think that it's really great on their part to be able to expose you to this and for you to see it. I have a pretty general presentation because I wasn't sure what our demographics were going to be tonight. So if you guys could actually help me out, I'm going to kind of ask you a few questions so I can figure out where to focus when we're talking about this. So, do I have any elementary schoolers here? Raise your hands. Okay. And what grade range are we talking about?
Third grade.
All right. I like this. He's up there with it. And then you got what grade are you in? Fourth. Okay. Do I have any middle schoolers? Okay. Seventh grade. All right. All seventh grade?
Yeah.
Okay. Sixth. Okay. All right. And do I have any high schoolers? This is, as you can see, the interest in a bullying presentation like this ranges from all levels of school, and it even goes up until college because some of the more advanced cyberbullying, stuff like that, doesn't necessarily stop at the high school level. Do we have any, I've noticed that we have some SROs and we have some, I think we have one or two people from the school as well. So do you guys want to raise your hands? Okay, so these are your resources, guys. My office gets, usually gets referred crime. We get involved after a crime is referred to us, but these men and women are the front lines. They're in your schools. They're the people you talk to. And I'm going to focus a lot on having basically a big community conversation because bullying is a conversation that happens between the district attorney's office and school resource officers, and school resource officers and the school counselors and the parents, and parents to their kids. And it's really important to have that communication be open in all of those avenues. And most importantly, it's important for the kids to have this avenue of conversation open between each other because it's important to learn how to work out these issues, focus on what bullying is, and so that's what we're going to get into today and cover a couple of topics. just for this, and I know we have a limited amount of time, want to increase the awareness of bullying, focus on what is bullying. There are some behaviors that are bullying, and there are some behaviors that are not, and they may surprise you. Who to report bullying to, how to report bullying. So these are going to be some of the topics that we're going to focus on today. All right, more audience participation. So I'm going to focus on the elementary schoolers first. Does anybody want to hazard a guess to what bullying is? All right. Okay. When you're being mean to another person. Okay. Anybody else? Shy? All right, what about my middle schoolers? Oh my gosh, okay. All right, we'll call it a couple of you. In the white.
When you're being like making someone feel bad in a very harmful way.
Okay. In the purple.
Like threatening situations when another person is threatening
Okay. And in the yellow.
sometimes making you feel like you're like worth nothing.
Okay, so things that people are saying to you or doing make you have less of a sense of self-worth? Okay. And high school, you cool over there? Or you feel like sharing? And you're describing a ton of behaviors that are absolutely right, can be bullying. In fact, some of those, what you just described, some of those are actually crimes. When somebody's touching you in a harmful or offensive manner, that is battery, and that is a crime, and we see those crimes in my office. So we're going to discuss about some of the things that are bullying. And we're going to get into more of this later, but notice that a lot of the girls were saying stuff that was more emotional and psychological. And we hear from some of the boys that it's more physical and has to do more with touching. And that is actually a difference between direct and indirect bullying that we see. It actually can be very gender specific in that way. And when we get to the issue of cyberbullying particularly, that happens to be a forum where females are actually participating in more than males, because it tends to be that form of indirect bullying. So stealing can be another one. Damaging your property. Let's say you have a skateboard and somebody takes it and breaks it. And hitting, leaving someone out. Rumors. Girls, have you had experience with the rumor mill yet? Yeah, okay. It's, let's see, so the definition of bullying is aggressive behavior that intends to cause harm or distress. And it's usually repeated. And this repeated aspect of it is actually very important, because there's such a thing called peer conflict. And that's, let's say you don't get along with somebody. And you don't like them, they don't like you, you just don't talk. That's not necessarily bullying. It has to be aggressive behavior where that person is intending to cause the other person harm or distress. It's repeated, it's something that's pervasive, and there usually tends to be a relationship where there's an imbalance of power or strength, and that can be physical, that can be maybe somebody's more popular than another person, or they're using some sort of advantage to make another person feel bad. So this is the actual definition of bullying. Some things that aren't bullying, but actually deserve their own categories. Domestic violence. I know that we've got a little bit of a younger crowd here, but if you're in a relationship and the other person hits you, that's not necessarily bullying, that's kind of in a different category. Hazing. For some of the people when they grow up or get older and have team sports, bullying other teammates. That's not necessarily bullying per se, it kind of goes to another level. And gang violence. That is something that's not necessarily bullying, but falls in another category. So it's kind of important to realize what is bullying and what isn't. Also, kids roughhousing with one another, which happens. I have a little brother, and he and his friends would come home all sorts of beaten up from horse playing, but they were never intending to cause harm or distress, and repeating it over time. And there wasn't an imbalance of power. That was just them going out and playing. So keep in mind these dynamics. And then I think we've had, this is important, especially with some younger kids as they're learning boundaries. Sexual touching can sometimes be, guys are, grabbing your rear end or your, I see some giggles, but, it happens. But the thing is that's not okay because it's inappropriate boundaries. And you see that sometimes in the elementary and middle school kids because they haven't really learned that that's not okay. So if someone keeps touching you repeatedly in a way that you don't like, and they know you don't like it, and they keep doing it, we have some cases where boys were using that to kind of harass a female student, and in fact she was so upset by it because they kept doing it because they thought it was funny that she ended up calling a suicide hotline. And so it just was an extremely emotional thing. She felt very unsafe. So I mean, things that sometimes kids don't realize can be cumulative in effect really, really can cause problems for the other individual. Throwing things, excluding, I think that's a big thing for girls. All right, we're talking about indirect bullying, and I think our high school friend was talking a lot about that. Hitting, kicking, shoving, spitting. Taunt and teasing, racial slurs, and then indirect bullying. And you can do that in all sorts of ways. Other person to bully for you, spreading rumors, deliberately excluding someone, and cyberbullying. And we have yes. Boys tend to do more direct, and girls have more indirect. Cyberbullying. Of the kids here, how many of you guys have Facebook accounts?
Mhm.
Have what? Facebook. How many of you are totally fibbing? I see some sheepish looks. Okay, then I may not focus as much on cyberbullying right now. We can go back to some of the school stuff. But are there any parents that really want to know about it?
Well, just being limited to a cell phone that uses texting is enough to do cyberbullying.
And that is absolutely true.
I didn't even realize that until we had some issues with that.
Okay, so
Have you heard of Instagram?
yes.
Also, some kids can take embarrassing pictures of people.
Okay, so we will cover that. Oh, anyway.
Also, if it happens at any age level that has a problem, there's a function on any tech phone you buy called *86. It lets you put anonymous and you can just do whatever you want to someone. They won't know who it is. They never chat, and they can't find out. They'll always stay blank.
Okay, then you know what, we're actually going to spend some more time on this then, because all of those behaviors are covered. So cyberbullying, the definition is sending or posting harmful or cruel text or images using the internet or other digital communication devices. So like we have the phones, Instagram, any Twitter users? How about this, any regular internet users? Everybody, okay, so everybody seems to have a pretty good use of the internet. How many parents here, you can raise your hands or not, monitor kids' internet activity? Okay, that's going to be a big part of it. Sorry guys. Speaking of text messages. So, school bullying tends to be more direct. At school, it's face-to-face. And what some of the people are talking about here is cyberbullying tends to be more indirect. And this is kind of really being seen as nature of it, because when you're face-to-face with someone, or you've got school bullying, you have a place to kind of escape from it. You can go home. The cyberbullying, because of the pervasiveness of technology, it's almost 24/7. You don't get a good escape from it, and they can basically reach you on your phone, which you keep with you, and it's really hard to get away from it. And that really contributes to.
Are we not plugged in?
I don't know what it is.
Plugged in, but,
Maybe that particular plug is not working.
Okay.
this one up here next to the other one. Probably the one front under the table here or something.
Nothing like modern technology.
Work.
I hate when I have to give a PowerPoint presentation. I practice at home, works fine, I come and do it, and then it messes up.
Maybe it's a different voltage.
Oh, boy.
It's
It should be working.
I don't know. Is there a
Well, I thought that you checked that she's already.
of the, where that pull-up drawer where they have all the mics and other equipment. I don't recall seeing one in there. Let me take a look. Did they say they need one? I have one.
Is it a new one?
I have no idea. How new is yours? No, okay.
I would need to actually get my presentations on my computer though, so you must have probably done it to
I have a question for the kids while she's doing that. You guys didn't raise your hand when you said you had Facebook. Do any of you have MySpace? There we
Actually,
go.
no, I don't, but that got out of fashion like a long
It's dated me. I understand, but I also heard that it's coming back, so that's why I asked. It was on the news this week.
We had a little fashion Easter egg here.
She did. I mean,
She's nowhere to do without it. You always have a hard copy.
Close that cover. Somebody's going to trip over it.
Okay, thank you.
Alright, so let me ask the audience another question, especially you kids. Okay, how many out there with a show of hands know someone who's been bullied? How many of you, show of hands, know somebody, a friend or a neighbor, or maybe even yourself, who's been bullied? How many of those that you know are good friends of yours? Wow. How many of those are relatives of yours? How many of them are you? Okay, so let me ask you this. How many of you saw the traditional type of bullying where people call you names or something like that? How many of you have been bullied by having people call you names or tease you or something like that? How many of you have been bullied by seeing emails or someone texting about you?